be a normal day. Oh, don't laugh. I've seen some of your luggage on this trip. So everything became an event. My favorite thing that he said, and I just treasure this, in 1890, he said, I want to hire more musicians than any resort in the Great Lakes. And he said that in 1890. And this is 2012, and we still hire more musicians than any resort in the Great Lakes from noon till midnight somewhere. There's always live music playing in this hotel. The second thing he brought here, and I love this, was sports. For a little short guy, he was a runner, rower, boxer, one of the founding members of the Detroit Athletic Club. Brought all those sports here. Built a baseball diamond. We had the island's very first tennis courts. We had a beautiful boxing ring down there. We had rowing races. And remember, this is Victorian sports. They were on the daily schedule events. And this is my favorite thing. Music accompanied pretty much every event that we had. My all-time favorite is baseball. I love the accounts of baseball. Guy'd get a good lick off the bat, be tearing around the bases. There'd be a violinist behind him. Cymbals would crash as they slid across the base. A flourish of music would play. Old people would just cheering. Woo! Man, everything was an event. That's what it was all about. Let me do this. Let me give you a fun thing. Let me talk about the field days. The field days were Fridays. They were the championships of all these events, and we would honor the victors, sometimes making them king and queen of Mackinaw Island for the weekend. But there always would be a ceremony. Let me just give, this is fun, because Mr. Sullivan, God love him, he wrote notes. And his notes were very dry. He was the social director, and basically he kept them so he could improve upon these events the following year. And we have some. So let me do this. This is a wonderful insight into the time. Let me tell you on a Friday field day, that's the championship, let me tell you an event. I'll tell you what we did. I'll describe it. And then I'm going to tell you how we described it to the Victorians, and then you will understand the word foo-foo. I hate the word foo-foo, but we had to foo-foo up everything for these people. And I hate that word, but I can't find me a better word. So you'll understand foo-foo when I tell you our description. And then my favorite thing is that personal insight, that witness. I'm going to tell you a little something that he wrote on the bottom of his notes about this event. So here's a three-part thing. First thing was the tennis matches. On Friday, the field day, we had to honor the victor. So on the daily schedule events, it would have an event where the victor would give a speech. Oh, and it would have the clothing that you wore to this. It would note the musicians would be present. You would go down, hear the victor make the speech, listen to the music. So it was a list of people who would gather. We had it right down by the tennis courts. And this is what really happened. We would take the victor and we'd put him on a stump or a box or something, and the orchestra would come down there. Guests would come down in the appropriate clothing. Music would play. And then he'd make a little speech. And I have no idea what he said. If he talked about his athletic prowess, what he had for breakfast, I don't know. So he'd make this little speech, but everything's about drama for these Victorian people, right? So we had an old whitefish net down there and it was full of doves. So the big drama at the end of the speech, he'd pull this cord, the doves flew off, and the orchestra would play. That was the big drama. Now, let me tell you how we described it. And when I'm done telling you this description, if you can hang on through this whole description, you're going to understand the word foo-foo. That same event that I just told you, this is how we described it to those people in the 1890s in the Grand Gazette. This is what we said. You're going to love this. It said, the victor of the tennis match at the conclusion of his speech will release doves. You ready for this? The doves will represent the soul of the ball that had been beaten back and forth in the bounds of gravity for the entertainment of humanity, and symbolically having those tiny souls freed to the heavens by their victor. Poof, and they pulled it, and the doves flew off, and violins played, and people just cried. It was like, oh. Doves going off to heaven, and we beat up all week in the tennis thing. I don't think we can do this every Friday. But anyway, so now, here's what we did. Here's how we described what we did. Now let me tell you the little eyewitness note that I love. This little human injection here, if you will. He wrote in the bottom of the notes, I think he was worried about his job. And here's what he wrote. He always wrote very seriously for a social director. He said it was his Friday. It was his job, Friday after consecutive Friday, to procure these doves for the events at the tennis match. And as the season ground on, he was running out of doves. And he and the bellman would go to the park and catch pigeons, and no one noticed that some of the doves were bigger than some of the other doves. All right, third thing is what you guys just did. And I love this. Laughter, humor, comedy, to entertain these people. You're figuring out we're more than just lodging, clean rooms, and a pretty place. We're putting together these events. We would take something conventional and make it unconventional, just to make these people laugh. And the things I'm going to tell you right now, let me see how we're doing here, are going to kind of be silly. And they are silly. But they were huge to these people, because there's no way any of us in this room can relate to how big just this stupid stuff was, because we have so much entertainment in our life today. We have too much entertainment. We have hundreds of choices in the course of the day to amuse ourselves. We have so much, we've dropped the bar on the quality of entertainment. These people were starved for this. They didn't have the options and the transportation and the choices we have. They had come 2 to 3 days on a boat to this white colonnaded electrified mansion in the wilderness where they had music and dancing and sports and these events that we just pulled out of nowhere, and now we threw in this comedy. So what we did, the way we did is we took an event, a conventional event, and we made it an unconventional event. So here's what we did. This is very good. We would take something that everybody else, oh, remember, let me put this into perspective too. Other hotels are opening on the island. They're offering entertainment. We're the Grand Hotel. Our entertainment has to be better. Our silly has to be better than their silly. No, we charge more for our silly. We still charge more for our silly. Shh, I didn't say that last part. So we would take an event. If you saw a conventional baseball in the morning, it would be a regular baseball game with music. If you saw it in the afternoon as unconventional baseball, it would be the silliest thing you ever saw. So let me give you some of these events, how we kicked them up a notch. Ladies loved egg races. Such a simple thing. Ladies would line up down in the tea garden, proper summer dress. There'd be a little trio playing. A hotel employee would come by and put a spoon in the lady's mouth, and they would balance a raw egg in that spoon. Now, without using their hands, a little whistle would blow, some genteel music would play, and these ladies would have to go through this little obstacle course without dropping the raw egg out of their spoon. Anybody can do that. We're the Grand Hotel. We had to snob that up a little bit. So we advertised a sterling silver spoon would be put in. And to make it even a little more challenging, we took our guests and we put them on a horse bareback, and they had to circumnavigate the tea garden. Yeah, we're the Grand Hotel. You know. Every week we had these cigar races. Gentlemen would line up. They'd be given a single large cigar, a match, and an umbrella. The guys would go ahead, they'd light up their cigar, get it going really good, put up their umbrella, a whistle would blow, the orchestra would play a little charge. These guys would tear off through the tea garden with their lit cigar and umbrella, and all you guests were hiding behind bushes and trees with pitchers of water trying to put out the man's umbrella. Yeah, as he got to the finish line, crazy. Grease pole contest, the Murray Hotel got one before us down there. You polish up a pole, grease it, put a prize at the top, laugh at people as they shinny up. We were the Grand Hotel, so our grease pole had to be better. They beat us to it. So our grease pole, instead of being up and down, we put it almost horizontal across the 61-degree lake waters out there. Man. They greased it up real good, put a $10 bill out at the end, couple nights stay for guests, week's salary for an employee. The problem was it was off the west end of the port, so when someone fell in, most of the ports did not see the person frailing in the water. So we can't waste $10. 2/3 of the guests don't see the poor victim in the cold water. So they took one of our members of our orchestra to stand on the west end of the porch all day long with a pair of cymbals, just waiting for somebody to fall in. They started crashing the cymbals. Everybody looked in the same direction. I'm only telling you that. So I'm going to tell you the second thing that Mr. Sullivan wrote that I just treasure. He was an eyewitness to this, and he was complimenting Mr. Hayes about these cymbals by the grease pole. And he was very serious and very dry. And here's what he wrote in this letter to Mr. Hayes. He said he felt the cymbals, very seriously now, he said he felt the cymbals by the grease pole contest were an excellent idea. He said they served a dual purpose, one of which was unforeseen. He goes, first of all, the loud crash of the cymbals, he said, directed guest attention to where the entertainment was presently taking place. At least they should miss it. And it added an unforeseen benefit. I love this. He said the loud crash of the cymbals drowned out the ever so coarse language which often ensued when guests had That's bad. All right, I'm going to give you my best one. This is my best one here. I get in trouble. I always tell it. It's just crazy. If someone had something, we had to have it bigger and better. In the center of the island where Washmo Golf Course is today, Mr. Early had taken a deed on that farm after the War of 1812 and 1814. When he got a little too old to farm, he turned the farm over to his 2 sons. Real nice guy. They were always affectionately known as the Early brothers. The Early brothers they grew hay up there, a little bit of corn, but mainly hay, and they made an okay living. I mean, they had a little modest farmhouse up there. During our boom period, all the friends of these 2 early boys were downtown, and they were making all this money off these rich people, getting off these boats and trains. Those rich people stayed at the Grand Hotel. Their friends were making their whole living in a month, 5 weeks, 6 weeks. These 2 boys are working themselves to death trying to grow hay on a rock to feed these horses up here. They had to figure out some way to get some of these rich people from downtown up to their farm and shake some change out of them. Well, the Early brothers tried a couple of schemes, didn't work out so well. In 1896, the Early brothers came upon a plan that made us furious. For the first time, somebody offered entertainment we could not duplicate nor improve upon, and we were furious. They plowed under about 1/3 of their crops. They plowed up a little berm on the side, took some fast horses from the island, 3 fast horses from the mainland, and the Early boys set up a horse racing track. Oh, you could gamble on it. We were furious. We just had that little fancy tea garden out there. We didn't have enough room for horse racing here. And to add insult to injury, where the crack of the island is up there, right the other side of where our runway is today, those boys put in a still. They had liquor and they had gambling. We can't have this. Mr. Hayes wrote, he said guests would sneak up to the center of the island. They would come back in the evening sometimes a little drunk with a lot less money than they initially went up there with. I hate to say it, but even today we try to keep you people and your money on our property as much as we possibly can. That's been very good to us over the years. So, we couldn't duplicate this horse race. It was making it crazy. We closed the hotel. It's the winter of '86, '87. Hayes is down in Chicago. He's writing our newsletter that goes out to returning and potential guests. He's got to do something to keep those gamblers on our property. We don't have room for horse racing. Happenstance. Boys downtown's having lunch. There's this downtown Chicago, dead of winter. Two guys next to him, real loud at a table, are talking about this new thing that's coming to Chicago. And they're excited about it because you can wager on it. And they're talking more and more, and they're excited, and he's overhearing and finally finds out what it is. It's not horse racing, it's dog racing. This light bulb goes on, and man, I got no property for a dog race. How hard could it be to put on a dog race? So he goes, and in the newsletter that we mail out that winter, he writes this article. It's called For Those Who Wish to Wager, and it's this beautiful article detailed of the dog racing we offered here at the hotel, which we didn't have, but it sounded nice enough. People came the following season of '97. They politely asked the staff here when these dog races took place that they had read about. Well, there weren't any. Enough people asked about it. The early boys started racing up the center of the island here. He went to Mr. Sullivan. He said, the early brothers are racing up there. We're losing guests. We promised dog racing. We got to come up with something. Mr. Sullivan says, I've never put together a dog race in my life. He goes, well, it can't be that hard. He said, you work on it, sir. Mr. Sullivan was a good, dedicated employee. Are you ready for this? On a Sunday, of all days on a Sunday, guests under their door got a daily schedule of events, and at 2 o'clock it noted that dog racing would take place in the tea garden. Clothing was fairly casual to this event. It noted that musicians would be playing for your entertainment. And also there was a separate piece of paper that day, a little wagering sheet. So you knew that gambling was not only okay, but highly encouraged by the staff and management here at Grand Hotel. People put it down as a nice afternoon diversion. We'll attend these dog races down in the tea garden. So far, so good. Mr. Hayes gets to the hotel that particular morning. He finds Mr. Sullivan. They go and gather about half a dozen of our bellmen together, and they send him downtown. Do you guys have any idea why? Gotta get some dogs. No, if you read the recipe for dog racing, you gotta have dogs. These bellmen went on porches, under porches, screen doors, kitchens, barns, Indian village. They went to the fishing village. They were told anything with fuzzy with 4 legs that came to near about your knee, drag up to the tea garden, because we was having dog racing at 2 o'clock. 2 o'clock rolls around, guests dressed in their proper attire. They descend the tea garden steps. They listen to the music. They look over these non-racing animals, and they fill out their little wagering forms. Now, before I tell you the 2 best things that Mr. Sullivan ever wrote, I'm going to tell you kids up front, things did not go well at all that